Okay, so I am Professor Ilana Roses. I'm from Tel Aviv University, Israel, and I also work as a VP drug development in Exonalis Therapeutics. So it's a new company, different than what I told you 2 years ago, and it's a better company. And I'll give you the scientific and clinical overview of the volatile. If it will move, it doesn't move. So it doesn't move. Sorry. So in 1997, we actually isolated the new gene. I mean, it was there, but we identified ADNP and we call it activity-dependent neuroprotective protein. And when we actually found it, we found an active site within it that we call NAP, and it's 7% of the protein. And now we call it the vonatide, and it is an investigation drug. So can I move the slides? Great. So, it works. And I'm left-handed, so I can take it also to the wrong situation. So before I start, is I should say that first and last names of children and parents must not be shared with us. We can only answer general questions about the study, not about your child. If you're interested in the study, please contact your child specialist. We're an available sponsor, and I'm the sponsor here. We provide EU parents associations, anticipated study start date, and link to the study. And of course, we also are open to the United States. So this is the structure, this is the chemical structure of the vonatide or NAP. It's a very, very, very small fragment of ADNP, 7% of the protein, but it is a very important business side of the protein. As you saw, Claudio was showing you beautiful results today, which match completely what we have been doing over several years. So it's a key active site. And actually, we saw a mutation in this small site in a child in France, and the child has problems, developmental problems. So it's not only imaginatory and working in mice, but we also see it in human beings. And the mechanism of action of the vonatide is associated with ADNP going out from the nucleus that Mark so nicely showed you into the cell body. And what differentiates a nerve cell from many of the cell body, other cells in the body, is that we have a small nerve cell and then very long processes. So I have here the train transportation system, and you can think of the brain as a transportation cell, and actually each nerve cell or neuron is the transportation system. And then when ADNP is not there, the trains are derailed. So, and we need to bring them back, and the business end of bringing the trains back in line is actually the vonatile structure. So here I'm showing you, can we fix it? So here you see, very good, and I'll try with the mouse. Here you see actually like a train rail, and you see the protein that I really like to speak about that is called tau, and I also sometimes call it Tel Aviv University protein, and it associates here with the train rails. But what happens is if you have too much of it or something wrong goes, then it will fall and it will form complexes. It will precipitate inside the cell and kill the cell. And you remember Claudio was talking to you, telling you about a child that passed away, and we looked at the brain of the child and we saw these depositions of this Tel Aviv University protein, tau, precipitating. And this pathology is exactly the pathology that we are treating, because what happens is when you have enough ADNP, it will enhance this tau binding to the microtubule, to the train tracks, and make the train go in the right direction and inhibit this formation of these aggregates. So ADNP enhances this, and the vonatide enhances this like by 20-fold. So we can, instead of when ADNP is mutated, we can bring in the vonatide, it will replace the mutated ADNP and work. And I'm not saying it just from the fact of my own imagination, we actually have, as I said, several animal models. And here in these animal models, we actually see the positions already at 2 months of age. So this is the young age of a mouse. And then we see the correction with the vonatide. So this is the control, this is the ADNP mutation, and this is the famous tyrosine 719, or in the mouse 718, and we did it by genome editing, the CRISPR-Cas that you heard about. I wish we could do the return and cure them. And we can actually treat with the vonatide, and you see here the result. And these parallels actually brain activity, which we measured, and also repair of gait that you've seen that is problematic, and other functions. And we carry this also to the clinic. So there are diseases that are pure tauopathies, pure tau deposition. These are diseases that affect adults. For example, the most famous disease is Alzheimer's disease, but it's not pure tauopathy. But there is a disease called progressive supranuclear palsy. Palsy means like paralysis, and this is in adults. It develops very fast, and it's because of pure tauopathy of unknown etiology. We don't know exactly why it happens. And you see here the depositions. You see here the tau deposition, like we saw in the brain and like we saw in our mice. And when we treated these people, and it was like 100 patients, women, when these women were treated with the vonatide for a year, twice daily, what we saw, two things. One thing is that if they were treated with placebo, it was placebo-controlled, double-blind test done globally. What we saw is that if they were treated with placebo, the brain ventricles grew, meaning there was brain degeneration, brain death. When we treated with the vonatide, we inhibited that. You see, this is in red. And this was paralleled by an increase in significantly decreased deterioration in activities of daily living. So everything that you can think of that is associated with the progression of the disease. So this is the placebo, and this is the vonatide treatment, and you see a significant decrease. And this was validated now, not only by me, but by statisticians that is independent statistician that is expert in clinical trials. So this is something to keep in mind. We can repair the underlying pathology that we see in the mice and in the children, and here in this population, and it's safe and well tolerated. So this is one thing I wanted to show you. The other thing is a study that we just did, and I would like to thank those of you who participated. So here we interviewed parents of ADNP children, and last time, if you remember, I had only 4 children, and it was just one time. Now we did a longitudinal study with 15 children and also adults with different mutations. And I'm showing you the modeling here of ADNP and the different mutations that we looked at. We did some more models, but I won't bore you with that. And we did a questionnaire that actually Professor Collinson also used for the ketamine study. So this is a questionnaire that is well accepted by the FDA, and Vivian will talk about it. Vivian Margolis will talk about it. And here we saw that a trait that was mostly affected in the children was activities of daily living. And we treat activities of daily living, and we can measure it by this questionnaire over the trial, and it will be explained a little bit more later. What we also saw is the correlation of these activities that can be measured by the Y line with the age. And what we see is that there is some, so it's not only a problem in development, and I alluded that when we spoke 2 years ago, but there is also some deterioration with age. So I think that intervention with the investigational drug like the phenotype might be helpful, and I'm always dreaming to help you. So thank you very much, and I will answer questions after you will explain the trial by the experts that are now working. Very, very fortunate to work with Celia.
And I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Nadia Nisamoda, who's the Chief Executive. We both work for Galilee CBR, and we're a clinical research organisation working with Exonavis, with Professor Gozes. Lana already showed you some of the ethical points that we needed to convey to you. Clinical trials are governed by international regulations, so patient confidentiality is very important. We receive anonymised data, and whilst we may communicate with the family associations, with the heads of the family associations, we shouldn't be aware of your children's names or your names. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the study drug. I'm going to show you the study, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. So there have been a lot of studies in young and older animals so far. The studies have shown very good safety in all animals, young and old, and it's also shown protection, neurodevelopmental, neurodegenerative, and neuropsychiatric protection in those animals. And Claudio and Ilana have shown you some of that data. I'm a pharmacist by background, not been done pharmacy for many years, but most importantly is safety, human safety, and there have been 11 clinical trials so far with divinitide. Over 560 adults have received the drug. Some of the studies were placebo-controlled, but over 560 patients received divinitide, and it has a very good safety profile. We expect to see the same in children. And there's also been some good efficacy, so effectiveness of the drug. As Ilana showed you in the progressive supranuclear palsy, and overall there's been statistically significant results in activities of daily living and very promising results in cognitive function and motor skills. Divinitide is delivered once a day at home. The children get a nasal spray into one nostril once a day at home for 48 weeks. It's a multi-dose container. We hope it will contain 180 sprays. And it's a pump nasal spray, and it's an aqueous solution of divinitide or placebo. So the study, I'll turn around. I'm not going to use a pointer, and I expect many of you in the room understand the terminology here, but it's important for me to explain it. So this is the title of the study, and it's enough to give you an idea of what we're going to do. And as I said earlier, we're also limited by regulation about what we can share with parents. Once people ask their physicians and get ask about the study, they can sign an informed consent form, and then there's much more information in there about the study for parents. So the study we're planning is a double-blind study, which means that everybody involved in the study, including myself, Ilana, and Nadia, and all of our team, so the sponsor, company, and the clinical research organisation, all the parties that work with us, do not know who receives the drug and who receives placebo. So it's placebo-controlled. 2/3 of the children will get the study drug, divinitide, and 1/3 of the children will get placebo. This is in order for us to be able to apply for a license for the drug with the study results. It's a flexible dose. Every child will begin with 1 spray. We will take a blood test and look at the drug levels in the blood. And if there's enough drug level in the blood, we'll stop at 1 spray. If they need a little bit of a higher dose, we'll give 2 sprays, and we'll take another blood test. And again, if we reach an adequate level of the drug in the blood, then we'll stop at 2 sprays. And we do the same again until 3 sprays, and that will be the maximum dose. We have 2 age groups, so we have age 3 to 12 years old and age 12 to just under 17 years old. We will start in children aged 6 for the first 21 children, so that we can then look at the data. There'll be a special committee that will look at the data, look at all the children, and decide if it's safe to start then enrolling 3-year-olds. It's phase 2-3 because we've Ilana and colleagues have done 11 clinical trials already. The FDA have accepted that it should be a phase 2-3 study, which means we can then take the results and submit them to the European Medicines Agency or the FDA and say that we would like a license for this drug for these children. And we're looking at safety. As I said, it looks very safe in adults. We strongly believe that it's safe in children, but that's always, we must look at the safety profile in children. We want to see if it works in children. We think it will. And it's in children with ADNP syndrome, but it won't be for every child. Clinical trials always have inclusion and exclusion criteria. So some children won't be able to be in the study. The age criteria or the first criteria, but the criteria are quite broad. So not many children would be excluded provided they fall within that age group. It's difficult for I'm a parent, and it's difficult to agree that your child will be in a clinical trial where you may 1/3 of the children will get a placebo and not get the active drug. But the company have undertaken to provide the drug at the end of the study to any child that participates in the study. If the drug is proven to be safe and effective, we will continue children for the We'll continue the drug for all study participants. So this is a little bit of an overview of the study. We need 96 children. This is going to be a pivotal phase 3 study. We need enough data to convince the regulatory authorities, convince the European Medicines Agency and the FDA that this drug works and that we want a product license for it so it can be prescribed around the world. We have sites across Europe. We have a couple of sites in the United States, and we have a site in Israel. We have 10 hospitals who have already agreed to work with us. I've been the one reaching out to hospitals in Milan, and we have already have 10, and we have a few more in the pipeline. We hope to start early next year and start recruiting patients. We will be looking at safety. There'll be blood tests and urine tests and physical examinations. As Ilana said, we'll be using the Vineland-3 questionnaire. We'll also be using the aberrant checklist, behaviour checklist as well. And we'll be looking at gait and motor skills. This is just some of the assessments we'll be performing. So gait, motor skills, muscle strength, and skin thickness, and bowel function, and some others as well. I have some breaking news this week. We've had a very exciting week. Some old news. We've been to the FDA, and we have very strong support for the study from the FDA. So we'll be shortly submitting fully in the US. But we were told earlier this week that the European Medicines Agency will be returning scientific advice to us in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which is very exciting for us. And the most exciting piece of news for us, and I think for the parents too, is that we received our first worldwide regulatory approval to run the study. So in every country, we have to go to the ethics committee of each hospital where we want to work. And we also have to go to the Ministry of Health in that country. In Europe, it's a central application, but we have to apply for each country we want to work in. So in Israel, we submitted to the Ethics Committee several weeks ago. It goes in parallel to the Ministry of Health. And on Wednesday, during one of our colleagues' talks, we got an outright approval from the Israeli Ministry of Health with no comments, which means they recognise that this is an important area which where it's seriously lacking a treatment, and that we had full support from the Ministry of Health. So we got our first worldwide approval. And that's it. That's it from me. So are there any questions?
Thanks a lot for a nice overview. I'm sure there are questions from the audience. Is Kelly over there?
This one? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, just from my understanding, so in one of the first slides you showed that you would contact the chairs of the different parent communities in the different countries.
Yes.
Okay, shouldn't that be done via the hospitals that are made first to take this question into their ethical committees?
We will apply for to the ethics committees and to the Ministry of Health in each country or the European Medicines Agency. When we have the final approvals to start recruiting, we have to enter our trial onto the clinicaltrials.gov in the US and also onto the EU Clinical Trial Information System. So the individual hospitals will not usually reach out to all patients. But we will tell you when this is available on the EU website. After we have ethical approval, not before.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I think two more questions. The next one is like, okay, if I understood correctly, you will send the box to the patient at home, where we will get the unitides to use. And then for all of the different measure points, we need to go to the hospital that we are linked to.
So at the first visit, there'll be a screening visit. And then once the patient is enrolled in the study, they will get a nasal spray to take home. And then we'll come back for visits. And when necessary, we'll be replacing the nasal sprays. And they need to be brought back each time the parents come with the child to the hospital.
Okay, and then one last question, and I will give the mic to someone else. I think earlier this morning, we're thinking about, okay, how many patients have been diagnosed so far. So we don't have an exact number apparently. And if I understood correctly from Claudio, I think we have less than 100 patients being diagnosed. It must be more. Okay. Okay, because otherwise it's difficult to reach the 96.
So there are many in Germany.
So I suppose the inclusion criteria will be that you indeed have the blood testing or the testing that you're showing. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry. I think
my question is this only be benefit for our children, or is it the beginning for you? Because I can imagine the money with it. So it's only for a few children that will help, that you all do this.
The trial is open to any child that has the diagnosis around the world that can get to the centres. But as Ilana showed you, the drug is effective in an adult rare disorder, progressive supranuclear palsy. There are many conditions that have the same underlying mechanism, and the drug should work in all of those disease areas.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will help children maybe perhaps with Dravet's or Phelan-McDermid syndrome.
Clinical results. One is especially Phelan-McDermid syndrome and ADNP actually interact with Shank 3 that is in Film Museum, and I have a very nice study that is not published in the vet syndrome. So we do have results in other syndromes. So yes, so this is where exactly where we are going. Excellent question.
Okay.
Oh, is the trial only for children 16 years old?
Yes, it's from 3 years old to 16 and 11 months at enrollment.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. So I have a question. For the studies, right, where the children can go to. So could you also theoretically go to a hospital where you're not a registered patient already, and should it be in your own country, or could it also be in another country, for example?
So it's within your own country, as in many rare diseases, there are only a few scientists in each country. And this is a fully funded, sponsored trial. So it's not under the healthcare system of any one country. A child can go from the north of Germany to, or the south of Germany, to the centres that we're using. Regarding, and that's what the doctors that we're working with have said, that they see 5 or 6 children, but they have colleagues that see other children around the country, and that they will work together to bring the children to the centre. In Germany, we hope to have 2 hospitals, maybe 3. In Italy, we have 3 hospitals. In the UK, we have 1 so far, and we hope to get a second. So we're trying to minimise the amount of travel that families need to undergo. And with respect to moving from one country to another, it's, I don't know about the visa requirements or the logistics. Funding wise, it's not dependent upon local healthcare systems.
But the construction of the olfactory nerve is not good. Does it make sense to give the spray also then?
This would be one for Anna. Did you hear the question?
We kind of, if there is a problem, what we do with the mice, so I'm a mouse person, we actually put the mouse like that and then so lying down. So I think that even if there is a curvature, if the child is lying down, carefully, probably you can put it in, because the way we think it's going in is that we have lots of blood vessels here, and it actually goes to the blood. So it's not going, you're not shooting it to the brain, but it goes to the blood, and we are measuring the amount in the blood. So there is a chance that even if the curvature is incorrect, then we will see it in the blood. So it's not, shouldn't be a big problem, I hope.
Hi, just a quick question. I was wondering how we will proceed with the selection of patients for this clinical trial. Who will be the 96?
Well, when we will identify the hospitals, and like I said, they'll be on the European CTIS website, and then all of you are welcome to approach the physicians in your country and say that I would like my child to be on this clinical trial. And they will screen your child according to the inclusion-exclusion criteria that I mentioned. So I think, as we said, we need 96 children in this study, and aged between 3 and 17, and there will be some children not eligible even within the age range. So it's worth asking and trying asking to be screened for sure.
2 questions. If the trial is successful, how long would you anticipate that it would take before it is then available for everybody who needs it, regardless of whether you've taken part in the trial or not?
Yeah. Nadia is the regulatory expert as well.
Hi. Once we will have the study approved and we'll start the patient recruitment, after, and it's very unclear now, the number of patients, but we will perform what we call the interim analysis. We will take the partial number of patients that completed the trial, and we will analyze the data we collected from them and test and all the results of the procedures we will perform. And hopefully, if we will see positive signal, we will be able to approach the FDA and the European agency even at this stage. Potentially, and again, the focus is on the word potentially, from the moment that we submit the result of the interim analysis, not all 96 patients, but maybe half, maybe a little bit less, it usually takes something like 9 months from the moment we submit what we call NDA, new drug application, till the full approval. In this case, because we deal with an ultra-rare disease, it should take much less. So this was a very positive scenario. Less positive scenario is we will have to complete the whole study, which means 96 patients. And then the last patient will complete the treatment, the follow-up. We will collect the data and we will perform the same procedure, which is the submission of the new drug application to the regulatory agencies. The process still will be very fast because it's ultra-rare disease, but as soon as we will perform the recruitment of the patients, that's the longest part of every clinical trial. So we want you, and again, as Vivian said, we will update you. We are talking with the physicians. We know part of you already. We'll update you. We'll update the organizations of the parents, and we need the recruitment as fast as we can promise. And then we cannot show, because we cannot show the period of the treatment and the follow-up. It's something that the protocol requires. So from the moment we have results, 9 months, maybe a little bit less. We will work on all the documentation in parallel with the statistical analysis. So we are doing our best from the beginning of this project to do things as fast as possible. So I hope that's it.
And I also just have one more question, not about the timing, but how does it work with the flexible dose? How does that work with the double blind? Because presumably when they're then doing the blood test, you then know what the drug is.
So I told you that we'll be doing a blood test after every child must have one for the first dosing. So everyone will get one spray for 2 weeks. And then we'll do a blood test. They'll continue on that one spray until the blood test results are available. It's a blinded study, so how do we know when to increase the dose? So we have unblinded pharmacists, one at every hospital, or maybe 2. So an unblinded pharmacist will look at the results of the blood test and recommend to the doctors running the trial whether to increase that child's dose to 2 sprays and subsequently maybe to 3 sprays. We will have a pattern on the computer that will tell the pharmacist to do the same recommendation, whether the child is on drug or placebo. So the placebo, the third of the children that will be on placebo, will also have, some of them will get 2 sprays or 3 sprays. Okay.
In 96, is that an obligation for getting the trial started?
It's the minimum amount of children that we require. I think a long time ago, it was asked at the FDA if there were less children. We're going to be 84 children. And the FDA said you need to increase the numbers so that we can show them that it's safe and that it's effective. We can't go the lower number of
Some
children.
clarity around the children actually being diagnosed with ADNP. So if you don't reach the number, will you raise the age of the group of children, for instance? Or?
As Nadia said, we'll be doing an interim analysis. So we'll be looking at a lower number of children initially. We'll continue the study, of course. We'll always continue the study. But with the interim analysis, we'll be able to, now I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. At any point in the study, if we feel that we're not measuring correctly, or we look at the interim analysis and we see that the numbers, it's not helping us, then we can amend the protocol. So it could be that the things change, parameters change within the protocol. I can't now specify whether that would be age. I would like to add something.
It's important to understand that in the usual drug development process, we usually recruit hundreds of patients. We did from both sides, both FDA and the company, everything to find the compromise between those high numbers because there are no patients, and from the other hand, to get statistical significant results. So this number of 96 is a result of a lot of work, and we will have to manage a lot of additional procedures that, for example, I, in my 20 years, never did, in order to promise the statistically significant results according to the FDA requirements, but still with this small number of patients. And as Vivian said, in the interim analysis, once we open the data, we will be able to see what we can adjust in the protocol in order to make it faster, simpler, and everything in order to obtain. But from your point of view, maybe you should understand that the long process was shortened in a lot of years because the FDA was ready to receive the results from the adult studies, the 11 studies on adult patients that are managed in order to help to kids. So it sounds like a lot of time that you should wait till you will get the drug. And again, we promise from our side to do everything to make it as short as we can. But the work that was already done in order to achieve this number of 96 was huge because the usual numbers are 400.
I think in our eagerness as parents going to the solution.
I totally understand it. That's why I jumped to tell that we understand it, that we already work part of this.
Thanks. I think one last question you get.
Does, when a parent wants to sign up the child, do they also get like information how it went with the mice? So before signing up your child, like what are the risks?
The risks are very low. We didn't see anything alarming in mice in respect to safety. When a parent goes to the physician at the hospital where they're running a trial, the physician is obligated to go through a full information process to informed consent, so that they will give you as much information as they can on the product, and we will write an informed consent form that's translated into the local language of your country, several local languages if there are more than one. And in there will be about the safety that we've seen already in animals and also in adults.
To add to that question, I mean, the work on the, you basically asked, will you get to see the work on the mice? That's what your question. So Ilana's work was published and our work is in progress. So we're going to publish as soon as possible, but we have to. I mean, you never know when you start, but you never know when it's finished. So as soon as possible, that's the promise. I said one last question, but it appears to be a very short question and a short answer.
I'm sure it'll
Just a question about the end of the study. Do you have some experience what's happened to the mice after dropping nap? They didn't get nap anymore. And related to the children, you said in a slide, a sentence, that after the study, the children could continue with nap.
Yes, if the drug is trying to be safe.
How long? How long?
As long as it's helping the children.
We don't do that with mice, and we don't continue. Let me be very brief.
The mice, my first study is the mice was in 2010. And there we actually gave, like for the first 2 weeks of life, and then we gave again when they were 9 months old, and it seemed that there was some influence from the beginning of the study. So there are long-lasting effects, and we saw it in other models. So if you draw,
So, thanks once more, Ilana, Viviana. Madam. Currently, this gives you a lot of room for discussion. Now, there's all good. So we're going to break, I feel, but Anke tells me not to do so, but we're going to do it. But we should be out at 5, isn't it? Point sharp. Yeah. So we can have a 10-minute break, and then we'll return. But don't worry, because when we're out here, there's the reception with bubbles. Just where we have the coffee now. Thanks.
Syndrome. Well, in Germany, or more broadly, the German-speaking areas, we have 60 families that are currently connected. So at least we have 60 cases in the German-speaking areas with the ADNP syndrome. And nowadays we have support by a WhatsApp group. This is a very nice means by having an informal way of exchanging information, connecting, and making sure basically that we inform ourselves, we ask questions. So this is basically how we found each other and connected. So then about the formation of our association. So it was already mentioned today that for us basically to be able to support the great work that you are doing, we were very happy to basically provide a very humble minor support by the crowdfunding that we have been organizing. So we understood indeed that Claudio, whose work we greatly admire, we think it would be very, very beneficial for our children to have further studies, that he was looking for some extra funding, which was difficult to obtain. So in our WhatsApp group, we exchanged some information, we thought, what can we do? And then actually the idea was born to have a crowdfunding action. And in this crowdfunding, we were really surprised actually how quickly it went. It was a bit of a Christmas fairy tale, if I might call it like that. I was in Christiane's words, where we basically launched the action just before Christmas. And in a few days, I think we already had the 25,000 euros that we were aiming for. And we even kept, without a lot of further promotion, the action open, and we had 30,000 euros. Really from family, friends, acquaintances, colleagues. We also shared this, and just broadly shared also in other countries. So that was very supporting, encouraging action, and also giving us energy to see what we can achieve also to support our children as parents. Of course, this was rather a private action. So we had to privately sign up to the GoFundMe, and we really felt that we needed a more formal structure to make sure that we can also obtain more serious donations, provide donation receipts, and also make sure that we have a formal association that can be found specifically also for the German-speaking areas. So in April, we had our founding meeting, and now we're basically waiting final confirmation of the non-profit status and some further formalities before we would be a formal established foundation. Oops. So then if I go to the objectives of our association. So we have 5 main objectives. So first of all, this is networking. So networking between basically the various actors involved in the ecosystem, if I can call it like that. So parents, doctors, broader medical professionals, but also therapists. We also want to provide further information. For example, we have this nice information leaflets that, if I may give a personal example, I use a lot also to provide to daycare schools, professionals, what is the ADNP syndrome and what could be the various symptoms related to that and behavioral aspects. So this is also aspects we want to continue and further work on. Then as mentioned, donations. So this will be a formal structure to obtain donations for projects and research and to make sure that as parents we can also do something to support all this great work. Then we can provide contact details for parents, doctors, therapists, and other relevant people. And in the end, not unimportant, awareness and media relations to create awareness about the ADNP syndrome and enhance the knowledge. So then our achievements so far. So as mentioned, we have a patient register with data on the 60 children that we have. Here we have, for example, information on where they're treated, their mutation. So if we get a request for information, this is quite useful for us to see, well, do we have a child in this center, for example, or can we support you with maybe built for a specific research? So actually we used it already in a few occasions. So this is something that we also want to update and keep track. Then we have the website, and this is mostly also Christiana's work, I would say, and Stefan, absolutely, and Stefan. With the great house style, you see the logo. That's also not just the logo, there was also a lot of thought in it, also by Mike and all the other involved colleagues. What should it look like? It should be inclusive, it should be promising. So all these kind of things also really help actually to make sure that we have a good website with all the information. We also want to post the information about today, for example. Then we have also parent meetings. So of course, Germany is quite a big country. So we have also a lot of regional meetings where the different people can meet each other, specifically sometimes also with children. And we had a very nice gathering also in the Belgium city center recently. And then finally, this can also be used for doctor referrals, use of the website and also the WhatsApp group. And we had already the first case actually where a doctor actually referred to our information for a newly diagnosed family. So if we speak a bit more about the achievements so far, yes. We spoke briefly about it. We made also a video. And this is a visualization of the characteristics and effects of the ADNP syndrome in an animated movie. So this was also prepared actually by Daniela, a very active member also in our group. And also with the support of Claudio, right, to make sure that we said everything correctly. But this movie can really also help to explain what is the syndrome. And if we can show it later, otherwise we also have the QR code. This we have in German and English, but I think it could be even theoretically in many other languages. So then about our upcoming goals. So clearly our work just started. So as mentioned, we have a lot of further ideas in the future. Of course, we take it all step by step because we're all busy parents, but we really would like to achieve, first of all, an FAQ page for the website. Because what we have realized, for example, in the WhatsApp group, there's a lot of information exchange. We have seen also the nice treatment paths that you have been developing. These kind of things could also fit very well because we get a lot of questions of newly diagnosed children, their families, what should we do, what does it entail? Sometimes it's getting a bit repetitive and you cannot really find information in the WhatsApp group. That would be a clear goal. Another one is an online forum where we can have a structured information exchange on complex topics, with basically many topics. This should be a shielded environment, of course. And then I think very important to end with is the long-term goal, networking of medical centers and parent associations also across Europe. So we think it's very important that we know how to find each other, that we have an easy representation. I think also for studies and all these kinds of things, it is really
of key importance. So that would be a long-term goal. And of course, I mean, the most importantly is that we really want to support our children. And as parents, it really feels like that we can do something. So that leaves the presentation to the last slide. So again, thanking you very much for having us, for doing all the great work, for being so interested in our children. And we really have a feeling that everyone here is generally willing and interested and encouraged to support our children, which is extremely important for us at Touching. And we just hope to help a bit with our work and to make sure that we as parents are well connected. So thank you very much. We find the QR code here as well, so you can find the website and also the video. In case we can still show it, we could also still show it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Very nice example. And you came a long way, and also to get there in the end. It's very courageous. Yeah. I'm now going to try to show you your video. It's definitely worth it. Just let me check if it works from the screen. Is it on the laptop? Okay. Never working. Okay. It's on the conference website.
Oh,
It's on the
also on YouTube.
You see my you see my musical face there. I would go to the conference website, ADNP.
The Helms-Mortel Panda syndrome. 2014, screenings of children with undiagnosed neurodevelopmental disorders led to the discovery of the Helms-Mortel Panda syndrome, HVDAS. The cognitive genetics group of Professor Dr. Frank Kooy, pediatrician Nathalie van der Aar, together with colleague Helms-Mortel, published the first description of a new genetic syndrome, which later received the name of both authors from the OMIM disease database. The Helms-Mortel van der Aar syndrome is caused by de novo mutations in the ADNP gene, which means parents are often healthy, but their child has a new mutation. In addition, there are some rare mutations which are exceptional to this rule, which are still under investigation. ADNP is important for brain development, and defects in the gene cause infection in the entire body. The most common symptoms include, for example, physical and mental impairments, heart defects, severe digestive disorders, reduced intelligence, motor and lack of impulse control, sleep disorders, or autism spectrum disorder. Currently, mutations in ADNP account for about 0.2% of autism cases, which is currently ranked in the top 5 most frequent autism disorders worldwide. There may be more people who are affected, and therefore proper screening and diagnosis is required. Visual characteristics may include a thin upper lip, premature eruption of milk teeth, a broad nasal bone, or abnormalities in hands and feet. For some children, they are affected and diagnosed. Symptoms become noticeable shortly after birth, but for others, only after a few years. There is also a degree in severity of the symptoms, depending on the mutation. Diagnoses are often delayed due to a lack of information on the part of doctors. Therefore, it is very important to create awareness for this rare disorder. Since the amount of children is still increasing, a lot of research is currently ongoing to find out more about this disease and to develop a drug that could possibly alleviate some of the symptoms. This would significantly improve the quality of life of those affected and their families. Further information on the symptoms can be found at www.adnp-syndrome.de.
Going to keep it very short and with a big thank you to Mauritia and Nadia and Christiane, I can keep it short. Because Frank, he set the title of how to achieve our goals as a patient community in Europe. And I thought, yeah, but in order to achieve goals, we first need to define our goals. And I think the German parents, they did a very, very, very great job. So I think if in Europe, if the different countries can hang our wagon on the German one, I think that would be something amazing. Because I do not believe in having multiple websites, because it's only costing a lot of maintaining. So I'm really happy because I didn't prepare. So I prepared something, because I wasn't happy with what I prepared. So a really big thank you. You helped me a lot. So I think the chairs of the different European countries need to get in contact and maybe have some kind of a Teams meeting so we can further discuss on how to move on. So I think Thomas from Poland, now that I know you, I will contact you. And I'm part of the messenger group of UK and Ireland and of the Netherlands, of course. So I think, well, the thing I would like to do is indeed to have some kind of Teams meeting and have all the chairs joined. Yeah, that's one thing I still would like to do. Here in Belgium, actually, I stopped the foundation under Treffpunt. And the reason why I did that was that it didn't bring value to Treffpunt. Although Treffpunt is bringing value to parents with children of intellectual disability. So I won't stop working there, but I will still be the contact person in Belgium for all of the research and all of the questions that the Belgian parents have. But there is one thing I for sure would like to tell you here. Claudio is doing such a great work. Frank is almost on retirement. So how can we keep this really great scientist working on ADNP? How can we find funding to keep a team within the University of Antwerp as the leading team on ADNP? Crowdfunding, for example. So I think also as a parent community or a patient community, maybe we can think about it on how we can still find some money to keep this process running and be here again within 2 years to have some new findings and research and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to achieve that. Okay, thank you. I have nothing more to add, except a big thank you to all of you and all of the researchers around the globe. So thank you all. I'm really, I was emotional this morning when I saw you all, and I think I'm getting emotional again. So I need a drink. Let's have a drink.
I think that a big thanks to Kelly for bringing us all together here. Wonderful. Thank you very much. On to the meeting, on to the drinks.
I would like to add something, a big thank you to our trusted IT guy, Dale. And I would like to give him a big applause for helping us with the board and the guys.